Hey everyone, and welcome. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for today's explainer, because we're going to tackle something that literally almost all of us struggle with. We are diving deep into the hidden architecture of our lives, our habits. We're going to break down the profound connection between the tiny, seemingly insignificant choices we make every single day and the ultimate trajectory of our futures. If you've ever felt trapped in this endless cycle of frustration, where your massive, ambitious goals keep crashing headfirst into daily friction or procrastination, well, this explainer is built exactly for you. We're going to look closely at some incredible, timeless insights inspired by Napoleon Hill to finally break that cycle.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Have you ever looked in the mirror and asked yourself this incredibly uncomfortable question? Are my habits actually ruining my life? It's a really heavy thought, isn't it? You make these big plans, you set high goals, you decide you're going to wake up at dawn and totally conquer the world. But then, morning comes. The alarm goes off and the snooze button just completely wins. Or you sit down to study or work, and within 5 minutes, you're helplessly scrolling through your phone. We always tell ourselves, you know what, I'll just start tomorrow. But as we all know too well, that tomorrow never really comes. Our absolute best intentions are constantly defeated by our automated behaviors.
And that brings us right to Section 1, the root of failure.
It is so ridiculously easy to fall into the trap of thinking that you just have bad luck. But the reality, it's far more practical than that. Your destiny isn't playing games with you. Your invisible daily routines are. The way you handle the very beginning of your day sets the tone for literally everything that follows. If you lose the first hour of your day to distractions, you are essentially losing the battle before it has even started. Take this young boy from our source material, for example. He dreamed of doing something extraordinary with his life. Every single day, he promised himself he would study and focus. But every night, he fell into the trap of scrolling through short video reels late into the night. Because of this, he couldn't wake up on time. And the real tragedy here isn't just that he was tired, it's that over time, he actually started to believe he lacked the intelligence to succeed. He didn't fail because he wasn't smart enough, he failed because his late-night scrolling habit systematically convinced him he wasn't capable.
And this brilliantly illustrates a core philosophy from Napoleon Hill. You become exactly what you repeatedly do. If you repeatedly delay, if you repeatedly succumb to distractions, you aren't just wasting a few minutes, you are actively forging an identity. You're essentially teaching your brain that you are a procrastinator. But the reverse is totally true as well. If you repeatedly practice focus, you forge the identity of a disciplined achiever. Your destiny is simply the final output of the identity you build through your daily, repetitive actions.
Which perfectly leads us into Section 2, discipline over motivation.
We live in a culture that is totally obsessed with motivation, right? We watch hype videos, we read inspiring quotes, and we wait to magically feel ready. But relying on motivation is a massive trap, because motivation is just an emotion, and emotions fade. We need to completely break the myth that success requires one sudden, dramatic, overnight decision. True, lasting success is built entirely on discipline, and discipline is just a muscle built through tiny, consistent daily choices. Now, the average mindset believes that success is about possessing this superhuman willpower to constantly fight off distractions. They try to work in a chaotic room with their phone constantly buzzing and just try to power through. It is exhausting. But highly successful people? They don't rely on willpower alone. They proactively control their environment. They eliminate the distractions before they even become a temptation, directing their minds the moment they wake up rather than just reacting to the chaos around them.
There's this fascinating anecdote about a businessman who literally started at the absolute bottom. He had zero resources, no capital, no special advantages whatsoever. But he had one non-negotiable rule, his daily routine. He woke up at the exact same time every single day. He rigorously planned his workday before it even started. He didn't make giant, risky leaps, he just executed a flawless, disciplined daily system. Over time, everyone looking from the outside thought he just got lucky. But there was no luck involved. It was the compounded result of his daily habits that resulted in his tremendous success.
So let's be totally honest with ourselves right now. Look at what you did yesterday, or even just this morning. Are your current automated daily habits actively taking you a step closer to the person you want to be, or are they quietly, slowly pushing you further away? If the answer makes you squirm a little, that's actually a great thing. That discomfort, that's the self-awareness required to actually trigger a real change.
And that self-awareness brings us to Section 3, environment shapes your habits.
If you keep failing to stick to your goals, you've got to understand that your willpower isn't always the broken piece of the puzzle. Sometimes your physical space is actively designed against you.
Consider the story of a struggling writer who desperately wanted to finish a book, but lived in a noisy, chaotic home full of phone rings and constant interruptions. They just kept blaming their own lack of focus. But then, they made one tiny environmental change. They went to a quiet library for just 1 single hour a day. That's the whole shebang. By simply shifting their physical environment, their productivity literally tripled. They didn't suddenly gain magical new writing skills, they just put themselves in a space where good habits were easy and bad habits were hard.
Here's another prime example of environmental control right at the start of your day. Waking up and immediately checking your phone means you are instantly surrendering your morning focus to someone else's agenda, someone else's news, someone else's content. You are just reacting. Conversely, waking up and intentionally directing your mind, whether that's through planning, writing, or just sitting in silence for a few minutes, means you are taking immediate command. You become the architect of your day, rather than a passive consumer.
As Napoleon Hill so wisely stated, a goal is a dream with a deadline. It is wonderful to have big ambitions, but without a daily system designed into your environment and without a firm deadline, those big ambitions are really nothing more than wishes. And here is the harsh truth we all need to hear. Wishes alone have never changed a single life. Systems change lives. Deadlines force action. Now, to make these systems actually stick, we have to look inward. Section 4. Shift your identity. Conquering your psychological invisible wall is absolutely crucial. See, habits aren't merely physical actions you perform. They are deep psychological signals to your brain. Every single time you act, you cast a vote for the type of person you are. Take the entrepreneur who struggled for years. Every time a venture failed, he told himself, "I am a failure." And because he labeled himself a failure, his daily behaviors reflected exactly that. He hesitated, he quit easily, he avoided risks. But everything shifted when he consciously changed that internal label to, "I am a learner." A learner's job is simply to extract lessons from mistakes. Suddenly, a setback wasn't a reflection of his worth. It was just data. This complete identity shift revolutionized his daily actions and eventually led to phenomenal success.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the emphasis on the word believe. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. If you are constantly telling your brain that you are lazy, your brain will efficiently orchestrate your actions to prove you right. It's wild. But if you start accumulating small wins and genuinely convince your brain that you are a disciplined person, your actions will naturally and effortlessly follow that new belief system.
But I have to warn you because there is a highly specific danger zone when trying to build this new identity, 90%. That number right there represents the exact moment the vast majority of people fail. They start a new habit, the initial excitement is super high, and they do great for 3 or 4 days. But then, the novelty wears off, boredom sets in, it stops being fun. And right at that exact moment of boredom, 90% of people simply give up and revert right back to their old identity.
To beat that 90% drop-off, we have to completely reframe how we view boredom and repetition. Look at literally any elite athlete. Their daily life is not a constant highlight reel of excitement. It's mostly repeating the exact same, fundamentally boring routines day after day after day in an empty gym or on a quiet track. They understand that pushing through that boring phase is the ultimate separator between the ordinary and the extraordinary. Greatness is forged in the fires of boring repetition.
Which brings us to our final, highly actionable segment, Section 5, The Power of One.
We've talked a lot of philosophy, but your brain naturally craves instant comfort and deeply resists overwhelming change. True growth is always going to be a bit uncomfortable. So the secret isn't a total life overhaul. It's harnessing the power of just one single change. We see this beautifully illustrated in the story of an entirely average student who was constantly failing to fix his study habits. He finally stopped trying to force himself to study for 5 hours a day. Instead, he committed to just 25 minutes of hyper-focused, distraction-free reading a day. Just 25 minutes. It felt almost too small to matter. But by doing it consistently, his focus expanded, his confidence grew, and within 6 months, this completely average student was topping his class. You do not need a total life reset. You just need a micro-habit executed flawlessly.
When you start this process, it is going to be hard. Waking up earlier is an adversity. Turning off your phone is a genuine struggle. But as Napoleon Hill promises here, every adversity carries a seed of an equal or greater benefit. I really want to reassure you on this.
That daily, frustrating struggle of choosing discipline over the comfort of sleep or the quick dopamine hit of your phone, that is the exact, necessary seed from which your entire future success is going to grow.
Let's move to how this builds into a practical roadmap you can start literally today. Step 1. Choose one small habit. Not 5, just one. Maybe it's reading for 10 minutes or drinking a glass of water first thing in the morning. Step 2. Execute it consistently. Do not break the chain. Even if you do it poorly one day, just do it. Consistency always beats perfection. Step 3. Only after that one habit has become a natural part of your identity do you add another habit later. This is exactly how you build an unbreakable foundation.
Because ultimately, this is the grand takeaway from today's explainer. Destiny isn't a script written for you before you were born. It is a house built brick by brick, created by your small daily acts. The idea of starting tomorrow is a really dangerous illusion. Tomorrow doesn't exist. You only ever have today, right now, in this moment, to start building the momentum that will actually carry you to your goals.
So I'm going to leave you with this final critical question as we wrap up. The second this explainer finishes, what are you going to do? Which path will you choose today? Will you remain a passive slave to your old comfortable habits? Or will you take the uncomfortable, incredibly powerful step toward becoming the conscious creator of a brand new destiny? The choice, as always, is entirely yours.